Please don't kill me, she cried. His answer shook the universe. Winter in Montana was brutal, the kind of cold that burned from the inside out. The forests around Granite County looked dead beneath a thick white blanket of snow. It was the kind of place where the world's sounds disappeared, swallowed up by wind and unmoving trees. And it was there, in the middle of nowhere, that Ben Carter stumbled on what he first thought was a wounded animal. He was heading back to his cabin, an old hunting lodge he'd inherited from his father, when he spotted the tracks in the snow. But they weren't normal footprints. Too small, too narrow, almost like symmetrical cuts across the icy surface. Something strange was moving through the woods. Ben wasn't a stranger to strange things. A war veteran, former counterterrorism agent. Now, just a man trying to forget. He lived alone, far from town, with only a shortwave radio and a rifle to keep away bears and bad memories. When he reached the clearing behind the cabin, he stopped. There was something there. Someone. Lying on the ice, trembling, was a creature no bigger than an 8-year-old child. Its body was thin and delicate, like it had been carved from living amethyst. Its skin, a soft shade of violet, looked almost translucent under the dim, overcast sky. Its hair, the same color, was stuck to its forehead. 2 small horns curled gently upward from the sides of its head, like part of some organic crown. She was wearing a torn piece of cloth, something like a melted metallic robe. There was no blood, but there was fear, raw, pure terror in those huge violet eyes locked on Ben. He slowly lowered his rifle and raised both hands. Hey, easy. I'm not going to hurt you. The creature swallowed hard, lips quivering. She tried to crawl backward, but could barely lift her arms. A sound slipped from her mouth, a sharp, guttural sequence, completely foreign. And then, as if something inside her suddenly clicked into place, she spoke. In English. PP please, don't kill me. Something tightened in Ben's chest. She spoke like a scared child. Her voice was trembling, weak, like someone who had run miles trying to outrun death. Are you hurt? He knelt down slowly, pulling off his gloves. You're cold, right? She just stared at him, unblinking, eyes wide, full of snowflakes and frozen tears. Her jaw trembled with fear. I'm Ben. He pointed to his chest. Ben. Friend. The alien hesitated. Then, in a gesture uncannily human, she pointed to herself and murmured, Kaya. The name hung in the air like smoke. It was beautiful, musical. Kaya. Ben didn't know what she was, but she needed help. And he was still human enough that he couldn't just walk away. Without thinking too much, he took off his heavy coat and gently wrapped it around her. She flinched at his touch, but didn't resist. She felt light, too light, like she was made of glass and fragile heat. It's okay, Kalia. Let's get you out of the cold. He lifted her in his arms with almost reverent care. The walk back to the cabin felt longer than before. The silence was complete, broken only by the crunch of snow under his boots and the barely there sound of her uneven breathing. Inside, the fire was still glowing low in the hearth. He laid her on the warmest blanket he had, close to the fire, and started boiling water, prepping bandages, anything he could think of. He hadn't even begun to process what he'd found, whether it was a dream, a breakdown, or the beginning of something much bigger than he could imagine. Kaya watched him silently. Her eyes scanned every corner of the room, as if committing each object to memory. When he came over with a mug of water, she tried to sit up, but winced in pain. Easy, he whispered. You're safe here, okay? She took the water. Her tiny hands were shaking, but she managed to sip. With each passing minute, the color started to return to her face. Her shoulders were still tense, but the raw panic had faded. All that was left now was exhaustion. Ben grabbed an old pillow and gently placed it behind her. Kaya looked up at him, her eyes softer now, no longer filled with pure fear. And in a fragile voice, she asked, Why didn't you turn me in? The question hit him like a stone in the chest. He stared at her for a long moment before answering. Because you look like someone who just needed help, and no one else showed up to give it to you. Kaya turned her gaze to the fire. The orange glow danced in her pupils like twin distant moons. Ben didn't know if she was the first of her kind, a runaway, a survivor, or just a lost child. But deep in his gut, he knew one thing for sure. She wasn't a threat. She was someone. And in that moment, He made a silent vow. No matter who or what came looking for her, he wasn't going to let anyone lay a hand on her. The next morning, the forest was too quiet. Ben woke up early like always. But that day, the world felt suspended. The fire still crackled low. Snow kept falling outside, and Kalya was still asleep, curled up on the thick rug under the blankets like an exhausted animal finally at peace. But Ben didn't feel peace. He'd spent years reading signs, ambushes, hidden danger, the lies people didn't say out loud. And everything in him was screaming that something was off. The air felt heavy, like the forest itself was holding its breath. While making coffee, he glanced out the narrow cabin window. The trees stood still, but the tracks were still out there. And now, there were more. He grabbed his binoculars and focused on the tree line, where the field faded into shadow. Fresh markings. Heavier. Too far apart to be human. Something was hunting. Kalya stirred with a soft groan. Ben immediately went to her, kneeling with a mug of makeshift tea. Just some chamomile, all he had. She accepted it more confidently this time. Sleep okay? She nodded. Her eyes were still wide and alert, but there was less fear now. Curiosity had started to take its place. This is your nest. Ben chuckled. The question caught him off guard, and somehow felt completely sincere. Something like that. It's my cabin. Way out here, it's just me. She looked around with more interest this time, taking in every detail. The rifle on the wall, the stacked books, the old radio, the folded bearskin next to the fireplace. You are a soldier. The word surprised him. He went quiet for a moment, watching the steam curl from his mug. I was. Not anymore. But you still carry pain. Her reply was so blunt, he had to swallow hard. The little girl didn't talk like a normal child. There was something about her, how she saw through things, noticed the cracks no one else did, that completely disarmed him. And you? He asked, trying to change the subject. Where did you come from? She hesitated. Her long fingers tightened around the mug. I escaped. From a transport. I was a prisoner. Ben felt his stomach turn. A prisoner of who? The Zarn. They hunt species for genetic trade. I was last in my tribe. Ben leaned back, swallowing the weight of her words. She wasn't just some interstellar visitor. She was a survivor of something monstrous. How'd you end up here? I escaped the pod. Barely made it. Crashed into this world by accident. She touched the side of her neck, where a silver scar shimmered faintly beneath her skin. They'll come for me. They always do. Ben was already standing. He walked to the wall and took down his rifle. Checked the ammo. Then moved to the radio, spinning the dial, trying to catch something. Anything. Static. Cracks. Nothing. Kalya watched in silence. Then said, they don't use waves like you do. They'd sense. They hunt by the vibration of life. If I don't hide my energy, they'll find me. How do we hide it? She hesitated, then looked at him, steady. I need water. A lot of water. And minerals. I have to enter latency. Become invisible. Ben nodded, his mind already racing. There's an old mine about 1.5 miles out. It's got a well inside. Heavy rocks. Natural cold. You think you can hide there? She nodded, despite the exhaustion in her eyes. But it's only temporary, she said. They'll search everything. They'll detect the crash pattern. We don't have much time. Ben looked out the window again and saw it. A massive shadow streaked across the sky. Too fast to be a plane, too quiet to be natural. A vapor trail sliced through the clouds. They were coming. Let's go, he said, already grabbing his backpack, stuffing it with canned food, flashlights, thermal blankets. Now, Kalya stood with effort, but her steps were steadier than the day before. She was small, but there was an intensity to her movement, determination, even through pain. Outside, the wind picked up. Ben pulled his coat around her again, then wrapped both of them in a thermal blanket to mask their heat signature. They moved off the trail, stepping where the snow was deepest, where their tracks would vanish fastest. Along the way, Kalya said little, but her eyes never stopped moving, her ears twisting at near impossible angles like some wild creature sniffing for predators. 30 minutes later, they reached the entrance of the old mine. It yawned like a black wound in the hillside, framed by crumbling beams and signs of old collapses. But the secondary tunnels were still accessible. Inside, Ben clicked on a flashlight. The beam lit up damp crystals embedded in the walls, reflecting like frozen stars. Will this work? Kalia nodded. She touched the wall, then sat cross-legged on the ground. Her voice dropped into a low, melodic hum, almost like alien singing. Her body began to fade into the shadows, her violet skin absorbing the colors of the stone, as if she were actually disappearing. Ben watched in stunned silence. She opened her eyes for a moment. "Thank you, Ben Carter." He knelt beside her, rifle still in hand. "It's not over yet, Kalia." Outside, between the wind and the pine trees, something let out a low rumble. Like the forest itself knew a predator had arrived. The abandoned mine was deeper than Ben remembered. They'd gone nearly 80 meters underground, through collapsed shafts and forgotten corridors. The darkness was absolute, the air damp and heavy, as if the mountain was sweating the fear of centuries buried beneath it. Kalia sat in a shallow pit in the rock, surrounded by natural crystals that glowed faintly. Since entering her latency state, she hadn't spoken. She just breathed, slow, deep, and her skin had darkened gradually, blending perfectly into the cave's mineral walls. Ben stood watch, near a side entrance, rifle across his knees, eyes trained on the black. His portable radio hung silent beside him. No signal, no static, nothing. The outside world was gone, until he heard it. Something unnatural, not animal, not human. A sound between a guttural growl and a warped chant, like a dying engine fused with a metallic scream. It echoed through the mountain's walls, like the rock itself was in pain. Ben rose in silence, rifle up, aimed into the dark tunnel. The air thickened. The temperature dropped by several degrees in seconds. And then, from the mouth of the mine, lights appeared. But they weren't flashlights. They were white orbs, organic, pulsing like floating eyes. They were here. It didn't take long for shapes to emerge. First, just outlines. Tall, twisted figures with spines that looked like they ran outside the body. Then the sound. That deep, droning chant repeated in perfect sync by multiple throats. The Zarn. Ben backed toward Kalia. "Kalia," he whispered. "They're here." She didn't open her eyes. "Don't fight. You can't win like that." "I can't run. I'm not leaving you." Her skin had taken on a crystalline texture now. She was cold to the touch, but alive. Her pulse had slowed to a crawl, maybe 1 beat per minute. Even in her trance, she spoke. They sense movement, sound, heat, thought. They hunt consciousness. If you think about them, they can see you. Ben swallowed hard. This was a kind of predator he'd never faced before. He tried to clear his mind, but thoughts flooded in like a storm. Fear, instinct, protection. Images of his little sister, killed in an insurgent attack years ago. And Kalia, curled up in the snow, whispering, "Please don't kill me." And then, a shape appeared in the bend of the tunnel. 10 feet tall, slender, covered in black plates that shimmered with their own light. No face, just a bony mask. Its arms dragged behind, ending in fingers that curled like talons on the stone floor. Its eyes, if they were eyes, locked directly onto Ben. But the Zarn didn't move. It stood there, sensing. Ben froze, breathed through his nose, tried to erase everything, even fear. But the creature took a step forward. Then Kalia's voice entered his mind, not spoken but inside him. "You have to leave. They can't see me. But they've already marked you." Ben shook his head, looking back at her. "I'm not leaving you. If you die, they'll use your mind to find me. You have to lead them away." Ben felt something inside him shatter. It was suicide, but it made sense. He had to be the decoy. He closed his eyes, took a breath, and screamed. A sharp, echoing cry, full of rage and defiance. "Over here. I'm right here." The Zarn reacted like a swarm. Shapes burst from the shadows. For 6-9, Ben ran. He tore through the tunnels, relying on memory to find the side exit. The monsters chased close behind, their bodies scraping metal against stone, an inhuman clatter of limbs and plates. He fired blindly behind him. The gunshot cracked like thunder. 2 Zarn paused, just for heartbeat. Light, daylight. Ben dove through the opening. Snow blinded him. He tumbled down the hill, slammed his shoulder, but didn't stop. He sprinted toward the forest. He knew where an old hunting outpost was. an emergency shelter from back when he used to lead expeditions. The Zarn followed, but that was the point. At the shelter, he locked the door, worked fast, built a bomb from old supplies, flares, fuel, leftover ammo. They arrived, and Ben lit the fuse. The explosion tore through the trees. Flames, ash, silence. When the smoke cleared, 3 Zarn were blown to pieces. The others fled. Ben lay among the splintered boards of the outpost, bleeding, soot-covered, but alive. He had bought time. Far away, Kaya opened her eyes. A single tear slipped down. He came back for her. Now, she would have to go back for him. The forest still smoked. Ben lay on the scorched ground, soaked in melted snow and ash. Blood dripped from a deep gash on his forehead, mixing with the soot on his skin. The improvised blast had worked. 3 of the monsters were dust, but the others, they were still out there. And so was he. For now, the pain was brutal. His left arm wouldn't move. Ribs cracked, maybe a concussion. He knew the signs, and he knew without help, he only had hours before he blacked out for good. But worse than the pain was the silence, the stillness after hell. Had they gone back to the mine? Had they taken Kaya? He tried to sit up, but collapsed. The sky spun like water. He laughed, shaky, broken. Is this how it ends? He thought. Saving a girl who's not even my species on a planet where no one will ever know I tried. He closed his eyes, and then something touched his forehead. Soft, warm. He opened his eyes slowly, and she was there. Kaya, standing, unharmed, glowing from within. Her tiny hands touched his skin like she was searching his soul. "Oh, you're alive," he whispered. "And you burned for me," she replied, kneeling beside him. Ben gave a faint smile. "I thought you were in latency." "I was, but I felt you fading, and it shattered the shield." She ran her fingers across his face. The tips glowed softly, lilac light pulsing gently, as if her energy was flowing into his body. Ben shuddered. "What are you doing?" "Giving back what you gave me." Warmth surged through him like a wave. His lungs opened. The pain in his ribs eased. His arms started responding again. It wasn't magic. It was something beyond human understanding. A direct transfer of life force. But it was draining her. "Kaya, no. It's going to kill you." She trembled, but didn't let go. "You chose to protect me. Now, it's my turn to protect you." He grabbed her shoulders, trying to push her away. But for a moment, his hands passed through her, like she was turning into light. "Stop," he rasped. "I'm fine. You need to save your strength." She finally pulled back. Both of them were breathing hard. Ben sat up, barely, but he managed. The shelter was wrecked. No sign of the Zarn in the distance. But the air felt charged. Heavy. Kaya stayed kneeling, watching him. "You thought of me, even when thinking about them meant they could track you. That's insane." "It's human," he said with a crooked smile. "We're good at that. Doing the unthinkable for people we care about." She was silent for a long moment. Then she said, "I've never seen anything like it. No species risks this much. Not without genetic ties. Not without a promise of return." Ben looked straight into her eyes. "I didn't need a promise. I just needed to know you wouldn't die alone." She trembled, and for the first time, she lowered her head. Not out of submission, but emotion. Tears welled in her eyes, and they weren't alien. They were universal. "I thought no world, no being could be like this." Ben moved closer. Slowly, he held out his hand. "You were wrong." She took it. Their palms met, and a light burst from the touch, as if 2 incompatible energies had, by some miracle, found harmony. From a nearby hill, a Zarn creature watched, but it didn't attack. It felt something new, a kind of connection its species didn't understand. And because it didn't understand, it feared it. Kaya looked up toward the creature. "They'll come back. With more. A lot more. Then we'll be ready." "Ow!" "The way humans always are, stubbornly. And with you beside me." Kaya stood. The light around her had intensified, as if the bond between them had changed her. Ben looked at her in awe. "You changed. I wasn't made to merge with another consciousness. But you merged with me. Something in you rewrote my pattern. Is that a good thing?" "It's beautiful." And then, for the first time, she smiled. A small, fragile smile, but real. The kind of smile born from a soul discovering the impossible. If you've ever rooted for an impossible love, subscribe to the channel. We've got more stories like this coming. And tell us in the comments, what would you do if a little alien showed up at your door, begging for her life? Ben and Kalya spent the night in silence beneath the broken beams of the shelter. He managed to reinforce part of the roof using old support planks, creating a makeshift hideout. The forest outside was strangely quiet, as if the Zarn had pulled back, waiting, watching. But what really worried Ben wasn't the silence outside. It was what was happening to Kalya. She was changing, literally. Her once opaque purple skin now glowed with faint, pulsing lines, like living circuitry, tracing across her face, neck, and arms. Her hair, too, was transforming, losing its normal weight, becoming almost weightless, like violet mist suspended in the air. Ben watched, half in awe, half in fear. "Does it hurt?" he asked. Kalya stared at her palm, where the glowing filaments pulsed brighter. "No, but it's strange, like something inside me is opening. Something old, something forgotten. You are transforming." She nodded slowly. "My species used to be symbiotic. Long ago, we could merge with other minds. But that was lost over generations, cut out by fear, and by our own genetics." She looked at him. "You reconnected me to it. And now, I don't know what it's going to do to me." Ben took a slow breath. "What if it hurts you? It's already changing me. My blood doesn't pulse the same. My organs, they're rearranging. But there's beauty in it, like you awakened something sacred." Ben reached out and took her hand. "If this kills you." It was my choice. The silence between them was heavy. There was no easy answer. And then, in the distance, a motor, a very human sound. Ben jumped to his feet and peered through the cracks in the ruined shelter. A military drone, small, agile, recon model, probably launched from a nearby base. He grabbed his binoculars, confirmed the markings. U.S. Air Force. Damn it, they found us. Kalya stood, slowly. She was weaker now. The symbiosis was taking its toll. "Can they capture me? If they see you, they'll definitely want to study you." Ben grabbed his rifle and pulled her toward the darkest corner of the shelter. "I'll draw the drone off. You stay hidden." She grabbed his arm. "What if they take you? I've been arrested by governments before. I'll get out. But if they open your mind, they'll find me." Ben looked into her eyes, thought about everything she'd done, how she saved his life, how she was transforming, because of something he still didn't fully understand. "Then I have an idea." He walked to the broken fireplace, picked up a piece of charcoal, came back to Kalya, and gently drew a symbol on her forehead. An old one, runes he'd seen in war manuals, marks meant to scramble thermal scans. "Close your eyes, focus your energy, and forget me." She hesitated. That might sever the bond. Only for a while. Better than losing each other now. She nodded, and for the first time, Ben felt her disappear, not just from sight, from his awareness, like she had never been there. The drone passed overhead, scanned, hovered, and then flew away. Ben let out a breath he didn't realize he'd been holding. Kalya reappeared, slowly, like a memory returning. But something was different. Her eyes now held 2 concentric rings. Her voice was lower, deeper. "You don't understand. What we're doing, it's too ancient, too forbidden." Ben knelt in front of her. "What does that mean?" "It means others will feel it. Other species, other minds. Our thoughts together vibrate beyond the spectrum." She touched his chest. "If we keep going, we create echoes." Ben met her gaze, steady. "I don't care about echoes. I care about you." She looked down, touching the symbol on her own forehead. "Then I'll tell you everything." And she did. She told him her people descended from an extinct line of cosmic guardians, beings who didn't fight with weapons, but with connection, with presence, with empathy so pure it could disarm wars. She told him the Zarn hunted her kind because they feared what that bond could cause. Unity between species, disruptions in control. "Every time one of us connects with one of you," she said, "the universe bends." Ben swallowed hard. "So what are we now?" Kalya gave a faint smile. A threat. She wavered. He caught her. "Kalya, I'm fine," she whispered, but her eyes were already closing. Ben laid her down gently. She slept, but her body pulsed with light. And for the first time, the sky changed. Outside, the dark clouds spiraled open, and at the center, a light. It wasn't a drone. It wasn't a Zarn. It was something much older, and it was coming for them. The light in the sky spun silently. No sound, no wind, no explosion, but its presence alone made birds scatter, tree branches bend, and the very air vibrate, like something outside of time was watching. Ben stepped out from the wreckage of the shelter, eyes locked on that glowing spiral. The center pulsed purple and white, like Kalia herself reflected across the cosmos. For a second, he thought about running. For a second, he thought about praying. But in the end, he just stood there, still, waiting, protecting. Inside the shelter, Kalia was slowly waking up. The circuits across her skin now pulsed in sync with the phenomenon in the sky. It was as if she were the heart of what was coming. And the universe, the veins opening up in response. Ben came back to her. "There's something up there," he said. Kalia nodded slowly. Her eyes were still heavy, like she was fighting against her own biology. "They got here faster than I expected." "Who did?" "The echoes." Ben frowned. "You mentioned that before. But what are they exactly?" She sat up with effort, but there was strength in her voice. "They're pure consciousness. Fragments of a civilization that transcended form and time. They don't interfere. Not anymore. But they watch. And they punish deviations that threaten balance between species." She took a breath. "And our connection is a deviation. A mistake to them. A mistake." Ben stepped back, anger rising like a tide. "We almost died together. You saved me. I risked everything for you. And now someone up there gets to decide it was all a mistake." She lifted her head, meeting his gaze intensely. "I didn't say I think it's a mistake." Silence. "I said they do. Because they've never seen a bond like ours survive trauma, death, fear. They believe every cross-species connection is unstable. But we're proving them wrong." Ben knelt beside her, placing a hand on the ground. "Then why are they coming?" "To test." She touched her chest, where a spiraling light pulsed. "They'll try to separate me from you. Break the bond. If I survive the pain, I'll be accepted. If not..." Ben clenched his jaw. "That's not going to happen." She smiled. "You're so predictable, so human. And you're so damn stupid for trying to push me away." "I'm not trying." She paused, her eyes filled with tears. "I'm just scared." Ben wrapped his arms around her. He could feel the energy vibrating inside her, almost electric. But it was life. It was emotion. It was everything she'd always tried to contain, now finally flowing free. "Stay with me. We'll face this together." Kalia curled against his chest. "I'm not like you. I don't know how to fight. I don't know how to survive loss. My species destroyed itself, trying to erase everything that felt too much." "Then we'll do this our way," Ben said. "We'll live it fully. No filters. All the way." She closed her eyes, and from the sky, the light descended. It didn't come like lightning. It didn't come to destroy. It came as a translucent sphere, floating gently down through branches, stone, matter, until it hovered silently in front of the shelter. Kalia stood. "It's time." Ben took her hand. "I'm coming with you. You can't enter. Want to bet?" She hesitated. Then the sphere split in two, as if responding to the bond. Kalia and Ben looked at each other. Their bodies began to rise slightly, pulled upward by the inverted gravity of the phenomenon. "They accepted the double test," Kalia whispered. "This has never happened before. It's happening now." They were lifted. Inside the sphere, the world dissolved. There was no sound, no gravity, only memory. They relived the first glance, the fear in the snow, the fire in the cabin, the escape, the explosion, the touch. Ben felt his body break into pieces of memory. Kalia felt her mind split between past and future. But the bond held, even when voices from other species whispered, "This can't last." Even when cosmic minds showed them futures where the bond ended in tragedy. They chose not to listen. And in the center of the sphere, their hands touched again, and everything shattered. Light, sound, silence. And then, they were back, on the forest floor, lying together. Kalia was resting on his chest. Ben was breathing hard. The sky was clear. The clouds were pulling back. The threat was gone. Kalia looked at him. "They retreated. Because they couldn't break us. Because you loved me more than they could calculate." Ben kissed her forehead. "So now what?" She took a deep breath. "Now, they'll send something else. More physical, more real, and more dangerous. But also," she smiled, face glowing. Now the universe knows. There's a human here who changed the pattern. The sky was clear, blue, peaceful, like the universe itself was pretending nothing had happened. But Ben knew. The silence after the storm is always the most dangerous. Kalia was strangely calm. Since returning from the ecosphere, her body seemed tuned, as if she had finally aligned with the planet itself. The light on her skin had faded, now focused in the center of her chest, where a glowing organic jewel pulsed. Something Ben couldn't tell if it was a crystal or an organ. "Do you feel it?" she asked. Ben nodded. "Yeah, it's like a hum in my bones. A warning." She looked east. "They're coming." And they were. On the far edge of the forest, the ground began to quake. Trees cracked and fell in the distance. Snow kicked up in clouds as the heavy bodies of the Zarn warriors marched forward. These weren't like the others. They were armored, bigger, almost beast-like, and they had a clear mission: annihilate. Ben ran to the shelter and opened the underground compartment, the one he hadn't touched in years, filled with old service weapons, pulse mines, armor-piercing rounds, disorientation flares. "We're not going to win this fight," Kalia said, eyes locked on the advancing creatures. "I'm not trying to win. I'm buying time. You need to run." She walked up to him. "Run? After everything you've done? After everything we are?" Ben met her gaze, dirt-streaked face, eyes worn with exhaustion. "I'm not letting them kill you. If I have to die, then I die right here, screaming, shooting, and thinking about you." Kalia touched his chest. "Then you still don't get it. I'm not just me anymore. We're us now." And in that moment, she transformed. Her body lifted slightly from ground. The light within her spread through her veins, and something burst from her back. Not wings, but translucent energy structures, vibrating like blades. Her eyes turned to mirrors. Her voice became two, one echoing in the air, the other inside his mind. "They wanted me weak, wanted me afraid. But you taught me something else." "What?" "That pain is just one kind of memory, and that love is another word for resistance." The ground trembled. They were here. 10, 20, 30 Zarn, forming a black wall between the trees. They didn't speak. They didn't threaten. They just marched, each step like a hammer smashing the earth. Ben stepped in front of Kalia. "Stay behind me." But she moved ahead. "No, today, I fight." Ben wanted to stop her, wanted to shield her, but he couldn't, because what he saw before him wasn't a lost alien girl anymore. It was a living force, reborn by their bond, the embodiment of everything the Zarn feared. They attacked. The first creatures charged with terrifying speed. Ben fired. Each bullet felt like a pebble thrown at a tank. But Kalia raised her hand, and time tore open. A wave of energy burst from her chest. Not explosive, not violent, resonant, like the ring of a cosmic bell, echoing through all dimensions. The Zarn froze. Some roared. Others dropped to their knees. Ben watched in awe. She wasn't killing them. She was shutting them down, disabling their link to control, severing the biotech matrix that kept them enslaved. But then, a different Zarn emerged. The Alpha. Taller, stronger, half machine, half flesh. Scarred from battles across 5 worlds, its eyes alive. A red pulsing core embedded in its chest like a second heart. It didn't fall. It didn't hesitate. It struck. Too fast. Ben tried to intercept, and was thrown against a tree with brutal force. Kalia screamed, and everything around them exploded in light. But this time, the explosion hurt. She convulsed. The Alpha had struck her. A spear lodged in her left side, laced with containment acid. The symbiosis inside her collapsed. She fell. Ben staggered to her, blood at his lips. "No, no, Kalia." She smiled, even as she coughed light. "Don't be afraid. Light doesn't die. It just changes shape. Stay with me, please." She reached out. He grabbed her hand. The Alpha was coming again. Ben stood, broken. No weapon, no time, but with her burned into memory. And when the Alpha raised its weapon, Ben screamed. But it wasn't a human scream. It was hers. And the gem in Kalia's chest leapt out, shot straight into his, and entered. For a moment, he saw everything. The universe, her pain, the memories, the first stars. And when he opened his eyes, Ben was no longer just human. He moved too fast to be seen. split the alpha in half with a pulse of pure vibration, shattering the monstrous body into silver dust. Silence, falling snow, and the sound of his own heart, beating in sync with another. He collapsed to his knees, gasping, and she was there, but not like before. Kaya was now living light around him, invisible to human eyes, but alive inside him. "I'm here," her voice whispered in his mind. "As long as you live, I live too." Ben cried, not out of grief, but out of honor. He had loved something impossible, and that love had turned him into something no weapon could ever break. 2 days after the battle, the world still had no idea what had happened. No local authorities reported the tremors in the forest. No military drones saw the fallen creatures. No satellite detected anomalies in the sky. But Ben knew. He woke every day with his muscles burning, his mind in constant vibration. He felt things now, magnetic fields, shifts in the light, even emotions that weren't his. And sometimes, when he closed his eyes, she spoke to him. Kaya was no longer flesh. She was rhythm. She was presence. "You're cold," she whispered one morning, when he hesitated leaving the rebuilt shelter. "Yeah," he replied out loud, even though he was alone, but not like before. He walked the forest, and now and then, he'd stop, close his eyes, and feel. The trees remembered. The ground remembered. Maybe even the universe remembered. Ben had become a bridge, a living link between human and impossible. He wasn't just a retired soldier anymore, not just a man who saved an alien. He was a survivor of something bigger than species. On the third night, he returned to the place where the Alpha had fallen. The marks on the ground were still there. The earth still bent inward around the epicenter, like the planet itself had felt the spiritual weight of what had happened. Ben knelt and placed his hand on the soil. "Can you hear me?" Silence. Then warmth. A breath in his soul. She was there. She had always been there. "Yes," came her voice inside him. "I'm still adjusting. My being is scattered, but I'm whole. Does it hurt? Much less than being without you." He clenched his eyes shut, tears streaming. He had never cried this much for something he couldn't touch. "I wish I could see you again, with my eyes." "Me too. But now, I see more. I see inside you, your cracks, and your strength." Ben smiled through the tears. "So what are we now?" "Still us." Days later, he reached the base of the mountain, found a group of civilians hiking up with scientific gear. They were from the University of Montana, researchers studying recent atmospheric anomalies. "You live around here?" one of them asked. Ben looked up, at the open sky. "Yeah, I do. Seen anything strange the past few days?" He hesitated. He could lie, but he didn't want to. "I saw the most impossible thing of my life, and it was the best thing that ever happened to me." The researcher chuckled, assuming he was joking, but Ben didn't laugh. And then something strange happened. Their equipment started beeping, frequencies out of range, energy pulses coming from Ben's direction. He slowly backed away. Kaya whispered, "You're vibrating too much. They're going to notice." "Let them. You're not afraid?" "No, they won't understand. But someday someone will, and I'll be here to tell them." The following week, Ben began building a tower. Not a tall one, just high enough to reach above the treetops. He used local wood, stones, old techniques, and, at the top, an antenna built from scraps of satellites and busted drone circuits. "What's it for?" Kaya asked. "To broadcast. Not just signals, but hope. You want them to find you. I want them to find what we built." He activated the antenna. A soft hum spread through the air. Rhythmic pulses, not in language, but in feeling. Peace, love, grief, resilience, connection. "They'll feel this," Kaya said. "Some will try to destroy it. Others will want to understand. And those are the ones that matter." One night, as he slept under the stars, Ben dreamed of her. But not like before. She had form, purple skin, long, floating hair, her crown of horns glowing blue, and her eyes just as alive as the first time they looked at him. "Is this real?" he asked. She smiled. "This is more than real." He reached out. She took his hand. "Will you come back? When the universe is ready to accept what we are, I'll return. Promise." "You already know the answer." And then she kissed him. Ben woke with tears, but not from sorrow, from promise. In the forest, the antenna pulsed. In the sky, the stars began to shift. And inside a man, lonely, marked, and transformed, lived an alien girl who once begged for her life and found love. Ben walked the frozen canyon with slow, steady steps. The snow-covered trees whispered ancient stories to the wind, but he already knew them all. Since Kaya arrived, the world had changed, but not in the way he expected. There was no invasion, no interplanetary war, no official broadcast. The change was subtle, invisible to skeptical eyes, but there for those who knew where to look. At a local school, a biology teacher reported that plants seemed to respond better to human voices at a specific frequency. An 8-year-old orphan said he dreamed of a mist-haired girl who smiled at him before bed. Satellites detected spikes of vibrational energy above the Beartooth Mountains, but no one could explain them. Ben watched it all from a distance, like a guardian, like a living memorial. At the old shelter, now carefully rebuilt, he kept records, drew symbols, wrote in notebooks, documented every vision, every sensation Kaya shared. "They're feeling it," she said in his mind, slowly, one by one, even without knowing, even then, because feeling comes before understanding. It's the soil where everything begins. Ben was no longer the same man. His body had changed, not visibly, but he didn't get hurt as easily anymore. He didn't tire the way he used to, and time seemed to respect him differently, like each day lasted exactly as long as it needed to. "Is that you?" he asked. "It's us," she replied. Once a month, he climbed the tower. At the top, he'd take a deep breath and activate the antenna. The waves would travel in silence, like technological prayers cast into space. They didn't know who would hear them, but they knew someone would, and that was enough. One day, during a transmission, the antenna vibrated differently. It sent a signal back, not from a human, not from a Zarn, but from something new, something that used the same frequencies with emotion. "It's a child of the vibration," Kaya said, her voice trembling. "A being born from the waves we've sent. It was created by hope." Ben choked up. "A child, in a way. The vibration carries traces of us, our intentions, our bond. Some form of life received it and gave it shape. It's on its way." Ben looked up at the sky. The northern lights shimmered in purple and silver. So all of this, it was worth it. Every second, every scar, every word spoken and unspoken. One morning, Ben woke up with a strange pressure in his chest. Not pain, just weight. Emotional weight. Kaya was quieter than usual, still present, but in the background. "You're different," he said. "I'm pulling back. My cycle inside you is coming to an end." He went still. "You're leaving me?" "Never. Just shifting. Where will you go?" "Into what you become. Into every act of kindness you offer. Every moment of courage that rises from silence. Every human who chooses to protect what they don't yet understand." Ben closed his eyes and cried without sound. "I don't know how to live without you, but you already live for me. Now, you're going to live for everyone else." The following week, he went out for a walk and saw something among the trees. A faint light, pulsing. Not hostile, not human. Small. Ben moved closer. It was a humanoid figure. Fragile. No taller than a teenager. Translucent skin, no defined face, but unmistakable eyes. Purple. Vibrant. The being raised a hand. Ben didn't feel fear. He just knelt down before it. "You came." The creature approached, touched Ben's chest with the tips of its fingers, and a sound emerged, just like Kaya's. A voice inside his mind, echoing, "I am seed. I am some. I am what was born from what you chose to feel. Call me whatever you want. But know this, I am the child of the impossible." Ben cried again, but not from pain, from wholeness. "So we won." The creature didn't answer, but it smiled. That night, Ben wrote the final pages of his journal. Under the soft glow of a lantern and the light of the visitor, he scribbled the words he would carry with him to the end. The universe is far too vast to fit inside an equation. But when someone begs for their life, and you choose love instead of fear, the stars have no choice. They bow, and at the bottom of the page, one sentence written in steady hand. "She wasn't my species, but she was my home." Years passed. Ben's shelter became more than a home. It became a point of convergence. First came wanderers, then the curious, then scholars. No one was invited. No one was summoned. But somehow people felt it, a silent calling in the mind, a restlessness in the chest, an echo that led them there, with no map, no destination. And they found Ben. Older, yes, but not weak. His body seemed to resist time in ways no one could explain. His eyes still held clarity. His skin was lined but alive. And beside him, always was the being, the one born from the vibrations of him and Kalia. They called it Echo. The world changed, subtly. No wars, no revolutions, but something invisible was spreading. Children began drawing symbols no one had taught them. Plants bloomed in places that had never seen life. Radio equipment picked up songs with no source. Always the same frequency. 7.2 hertz. The original pulse Kalia left in Ben's chest. Governments tried to intervene, tried to force their way in, but found nothing. Because the vibration chose who could see. And more than that, who could feel. Echo grew without growing. Its body didn't obey the laws of human time, but its consciousness was vast. It didn't speak often, but when it did, it spoke only what mattered. One night by the fire, Echo asked, "Do you miss her?" Ben answered without hesitation, "Every day." Echo looked up at the sky. "She feels you too." Ben smiled. "I know. She vibrates when I take a deep breath. When someone touches the antenna with reverence. When a child listens to the silence and understands they're not alone." Echo nodded. "That's the future, isn't it?" "No," Ben said. "That's the now. And it's more than enough." On the 15th year after first contact, Echo began to glow brighter. Its eyes became two tiny violet suns. Its body, translucent like living glass. "It's time," Echo said. Ben understood. Echo had grown enough. It was ready to leave. "Where are you going?" "Wherever the vibration is felt. Wherever someone stands on the edge of choosing fear or love. Wherever a bridge can be built." Ben hugged it. "Take her with you. She already goes with me. And so do you." On their final night together, Echo climbed the tower, touched the antenna with both hands. The entire structure burst into violet light, illuminating the whole sky like a pulsing aurora. Echo turned to Ben, already floating inches off the ground. "When the next one comes, don't be afraid. Embrace it." Ben laughed, eyes wet. "I always hug first. Shooting comes after." Echo laughed too, and then it left. No ship, no sound, just vanished, like a note that dissolves into the wind, but never stops playing in the hearts of those who heard it. Ben lived another 20 years. He never left the forest, never used a computer, but he received letters from all over the world. People who heard something, who felt something, who dreamed of her. Ben answered every single one, with ink and paper. His replies became books. The books became schools. The schools became movements of connection. And when he finally passed, at 96, asleep beside the old antenna, doctors found no physical cause. His heart simply stopped, but in his chest, instead of just flesh, they found a crystal, embedded between his ribs, still vibrating, softly, at 7.2 hertz, Kalia's original pulse. They say that on clear nights, if you walk through certain forests in the north, you might come across an old tower, abandoned but untouched. And if you place your hand on it, you might feel a gentle warmth in your chest, as if someone were whispering, "Feel first, understand later." If you've read this far, one thing's certain, you felt it too. And if you've ever rooted for an impossible love, a love that defied species, fear, time, and death, then this story is yours too. Drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have done what Ben did? Would you have protected a lost alien girl, even against the whole galaxy? Share this story with someone you believe still believes in the impossible. And remember, the universe may not understand, but it always recognizes a true vibration.